Hello guys! Today I'm going to show you how to install a complete Linux desktop environment on an Apple TV first generation. So first, why am I making a video about a device that's almost 10 years old? There are some reasons. First, it's extremely cheap to get by. I got mine for around 11 bucks with shipping, and it's the 160 gigabyte model, which is the one with the most storage. It looks beautiful. I mean, you can't complain about that design for 11 bucks. And it's reasonably powerful. At least it's more powerful than the old Raspberry Pi. And in my country at least it's cheaper than the Raspberry Pi. So what could you do with a complete Linux desktop environment on an Apple TV? First, you could just use it as a computer for day-to-day use, like browsing the web, Facebook. YouTube won't really work on it because it doesn't support HD codec, at least without modifications. And you could just use it like a Raspberry Pi. You could build a cheap computer for somebody, maybe a first PC for someone. You could turn it into a retro gaming system, like I'm going to try. And you could also just do it for the fun of tinkering with electronics. So what do you need for this project? First, you will need an Apple TV first generation, the silver one. It won't work on second generation, third generation or fourth generation. You obviously need the remote, a HDMI monitor or a TV. You would need a USB flash drive, a USB hub, because the Apple TV has only one USB port, a mouse, USB mouse, a USB keyboard. Optionally, you could use a cinch to 3.5mm headphone jack adapter, because it's not easy to get the HD audio to work on the Linux platform on the Apple TV. One of the most important things I would recommend is adequate cooling, because the Apple TV has a cooling problem even using the stock firmware, and we're going to push the Apple TV to its limits, so we really need adequate cooling. For that I will be using a aluminium heatsink, which I will place on top of the Apple TV. Then I will use two 120mm PC fans, which will be connected to a power supply, an external ATX power supply. And I'm going to place them so that they are pushing air from the top through the heatsink and onto the Apple TV case. And the reason why I'm putting it on top of the Apple TV, the heatsink, is because the CPU and GPU, which are the parts that create the most heat output in the Apple TV, they are direct underneath the top plate, which says Apple TV, and approximately in the middle. And since they generate the most heat output, we want to cool them the most. And the last thing you would need is to check that you have the newest Apple TV firmware. For that you go to General, then About, and then you look at software version, which should be 3.0.2. This is the newest version, and you really need this. So if you don't have this version, just update it. So now for installing, you would need a PC, Mac or a Linux computer, and you would need a USB drive. And first of all, you have to decide whether you want the Linux OS to be on the USB drive, or if you want it on the internal drive of the Apple TV. If you have it on the internal drive of the Apple TV, it will be much faster, and you won't waste the USB bandwidth, since the Apple TV just has one USB 2.0 port, and we're about to connect a game controller, a USB mouse and a USB keyboard to it. Also, the internal drive is much larger than most USB drives. On the other hand, if you just want to try Linux out without wiping your Apple TV, you can just install it on a USB drive and look if it suits your needs, and if it doesn't, just unplug the USB drive and your Apple TV is just like stock. So if you have decided what you want, I would recommend a about 4 GB USB drive for the HDD installation, and around 8 GB or more for the installation directly on the USB drive. Next step would be to insert your USB drive into your PC and check that it's completely empty, because it will be wiped by the installer, so all your files that are now on it will be deleted. Then you go to your browser and go to osmc.tv. There, go to download. Select the operating system you are on. I'm on OS X, so I select the OS X here. Once the download is finished, just run the Qt host installer, which is the installer for this Linux distro. Here you can select your language, but English is your only option. Then you need to select the Apple TV. Hit the arrow here. Version. There you have a version for USB install with the ending USB, and one for the internal hard drive with the ending HDD. And just make sure to use the newest one. And since I'm installing it on my hard drive, I want the HDD version. Click Next. Next again. And here, make sure that the device you highlight here is the right one, because now the installer will wipe it, and this can't be undone if you select the wrong device. So make sure it's really the USB stick you want to wipe. Accept. Here it warns you again that running the installer will wipe all the data. You click yes, and then you wait until the installer is finished. Once the installer is finished, just unplug your USB drive and now boot up your Apple TV, since all the steps now just need the Apple TV. On your Apple TV, go to Settings, Audio Video, and scroll down to HDMI output, and make sure it's set on RGB high. This can't be changed in the Linux, so make sure before installing the Linux to change this setting to RGB high. The next step is to just unplug your Apple TV so it shuts down, and insert your USB drive into the Apple TV's USB port. Once you inserted the USB stick into the Apple TV, you have to plug the Apple TV back in and grab your remote control for the Apple TV, the original Apple TV remote control, or the one from the second or third generation. And shortly after plugging the Apple TV back in, you have to hold the menu button and the minus or down button. The Apple TV should now start blinking, and if it worked, you will see a AppleTv logo with a penguin, with the Linux penguin. And if it didn't work, just try it again. Or sometimes it doesn't work with some USB sticks. For example, I have a SanDisk Cruiser, and that didn't work. And now just wait until the installer starts. Now it says to remove the USB stick and unplug the AppleTv, and wait 10 seconds and plug the AppleTv back in. So we're going to do that. If you're installing this on your USB stick, then the message you get here might be different. And now I also would recommend cooling and inserting your USB hub so you can use your keyboard and mouse. Now it takes a while since the AppleTv is now booting for the first time. While this is installing, I'm going to tell you why we are using OSMC and not OpenELEC for this install. The reason is OSMC is directly based on Debian Linux, and it's fairly easy to install a desktop environment on it to have a full Linux installation. Now the AppleTv will reboot again after installing all the files. Once the AppleTv reboots, you will have to configure your installation. So here you have to select your language, English, yes. Then where you are, your time, here you have to just select accept, continue. Here you can select if you want the OSMC skin for Kodi or you want the classic skin. Since we won't be using Kodi too much on this machine, I just don't care, I just select classic. I don't want a newsletter and exit. If you get this message, select yes. For this step you will need internet, just connect it via a Ethernet cable, and wait a while until all updates have finished. If all updates were installed, press S, the S key on your keyboard, and select exit, and when you hit exit, start pressing escape several times. If it worked, you will see OSMC login. If it didn't work, you just have to do it again. Unplug your AppleTv, plug it back in, and try it again. Or if it just restarts the GUI, then just select S again, exit, and try it again with escape. But if you here at the screen, just type in OSMC, hit enter as password, also type OSMC, and now wait until Debian is updating the apt cache. While it's doing that update, you can decide which desktop environment you want. I installed GNOME, KDE, LXDE, and XFCE on it, and for me the LXDE just worked the best. GNOME and KDE were really sluggish on the AppleTv, and XFCE was okay but not great, but LXDE is really good, so I'm using LXDE for this. It's really lightweight and will work on a approximately 10-year-old AppleTv, So to install it, type sudo apt-get install LXDE and hit enter. Then to continue, press the Y for yes, hit enter, and then wait until it installed. This can take about 15 to 20 minutes, so I will be back when it's finished. Once it's finished, you just type in start X and hit enter. And now you will see we have a desktop Linux. I will set the resolution a little bit smaller so you can see it better. And there you go. Here you can just install programs like on every Linux version. For example, let's install hardinfo. For that, go to your terminal and type in sudo apt-get install hardinfo. So now to open it, go to your menu, go to System Tools, System Profiler and Benchmark, and there we have a summary with all the information about your computer. In our case, about the AppleTv. You can see it has a 1 GHz Intel processor, 245 megabytes of RAM, and we are running Debian Linux version 8.3, screen resolution, and all the other things you might want to know about your system. So, and just like that, you can install every program you like. For example, you also could install a internet browser or the Synaptic package manager, or really everything you like. Just make sure every time you restart your AppleTv, it will automatically boot into the OSMC or Kodi Media Center. So you have to go to exit and press escape multiple times and log in just like I showed you before by typing OSMC into user and password and then starting the GUI with startx. And if you want to go back to the Kodi Media Center, you just go to your menu, go to Sound and Video, and go to Kodi Media Center. I hope you liked this video. If you liked it, just leave me a thumbs up. And if you have any questions, then just write a comment. And thanks for watching.